which are in focus today, and IMFA is one of them, reported a weak set of fourth quarter numbers as volumes fell sharply, while the ferrochrome sales were also sequentially lower by 19%. Subhrakant Panda, the managing director at the company, is joining us to discuss the quarter gone by and, most importantly, the outlook going forward as well. Mr. Panda, good morning. Thank you so much for joining us here on CNBC-TV18. The first question is really about volumes. What happened? Because they were sharply lower this time.
Well, if you're talking about sales volumes, actually it is a little bit of an aberration because the corresponding quarter had some tonnage spilling over from the previous quarter, and the quarter under review, which is Q4 FY23. We made some shipments which actually went into stock at one of our large customers, the vendor managed inventory yard. So that's the difference in terms of why the volumes are looking lower. But just to give you a little insight into the numbers, compared to FY23, which was an exceptional year in terms of commodity prices, obviously FY23 pales in comparison. But if you look at it on its own, FY23 is still a very, very creditable performance and actually one of our best ever years. So that is the one has to look at this in context as to whether the glass is half full or half empty.
Right. Let's look at it half full then, or rather, just let's look at it objectively, Mr. Panda. What is the volume outlook then you have for FY24? Last year you did close to around 2.48 lakh tons. And realizations, back of the envelope calculation suggests that you did about 1.11 lakh rupees per ton. How have they panned out? So volumes and realizations, what can you guide for?
Okay, so in terms of volumes, we're pretty much maxed out in terms of capacity, which is why we're looking at our expansion. But leaving that aside for a minute, for FY24, we are again looking at between 2.45 to 2.5 lakh tons of output. So that is in terms of volume guidance. Now, if you look at it in terms of pricing, actually the interesting thing for FY23 is that the average realization for the year was actually higher than FY22, but the profits are almost half, and that's on account of a sharp increase in input costs. And even though we have captive chrome ore mines, which shields us to quite a large extent, but it was in terms of power generation cost arising out of high thermal coal prices, as well as metallurgical coke prices, which were high. So in terms of prices for pricing guidance for FY24, Mangalam, as you know, that in a cyclical industry, it's really difficult for us to predict for the year for the entire year in advance. But if I were to look at H1, then we are broadly, I would say that at current levels, maybe doing a little bit better. And the EBITDA margins, which are at about 22% for Q4 FY23, we expect it to be at about 25% or so for H1. And then we have to take it on from there. So there are two competing factors here. One is that China, after opening up, has not been as robust as possible, and you're seeing that in terms of demand contraction for various commodities. But on the other hand, you have a serious power crisis in South Africa, which is the world's second largest producer of ferrochrome and the largest supplier of chrome ore. And they are now going on to stage 8 power cuts, which is, I believe, something like 16 hours of power cuts in a 32-hour cycle. So that is something that is expected to, I think, bolster ferrochrome prices at least for the next couple of quarters.
Okay. Mr. Panda, I wanted to follow up on the volumes. You said the guidance could be anywhere between 2.45 to 2.5 lakh tons in FY24. You have maxed out in terms of volumes as well. So when the capacity comes on stream, the newer capacity, what could the additional volumes be from there? When will it be commissioned? When will it start aiding your top line and volumes as well?
So we are about to start work on 100,000 tons per annum ferrochrome capacity at Kalinganagar in Jajpur district of Odisha. The land allocation, etc., is in place. In fact, we have started placing orders for major equipment, and we expect to take possession of the land and start construction post monsoons, let's say October, November, somewhere around there. And the target for commissioning at this point in time is second quarter of calendar year FY25, but that is obviously something that we will update as we go along. And so that will take our total production up to close to 350,000 tons, and obviously add and to back that up in terms of ore raising, FY23 was our best ever, close to 6 lakh tons, and we are looking to double that over the next 6 to 7 years. And the first phase of that is what will support the expansion of 100,000 tons. And the second phase of the increase in ore output will lead to further capacity addition. So we are, as I said, looking to go from adding 100,000 tons in a couple of years' time and further capacity beyond that. But let's focus on the first phase at this point in time.
Right. It's a question that we keep asking you every quarter, Mr. Panda, which is the money that is supposed to come from the Utkal C block. I remember, earlier we would ask you, you would say that it's coming in a couple of quarters. Then you boiled it down to H2 of the last fiscal. And now you've pushed it forward to the first quarter of FY24. I just wanted to know, is there a possibility that it can be, postponed further from there as well? And what's the net amount that you get?
So we don't expect it to be postponed any further because, the Utkal C block has had its own saga of being auctioned several times and the winners then backing out. But in this case, it has been allocated to JSPL through the auction process. And they have paid the initial amount of about 20 odd crores, which is for certain statutory expenses. So that has already been received by us. So what we're waiting now is for the valuation report to be made available, and so we were expecting actually to have the discussion with the nominated authority and JSPL officials towards the end of this month. But we do expect to have that discussion in June. And in terms of the amount that we expect, what is there on the books, we don't expect any write-off on that in that context. So we are very confident about the investment and other expenses which has been incurred by our subsidiary to be fully reimbursed.
That's roughly 370 crores, right? That's what you have provided for in the books as well?
That is exactly what it is. I mean, there and thereabouts. So we don't expect any significant downside from that, if any at all, in fact.
And if you are having any discussions in June itself, you expect it to at least be there by second quarter of FY24?
That is certainly the expectation. I mean, I must say that this is something that we have been consistently off, but that was because of a whole drawn-out saga in terms of the auction process itself. But that's a major step which we have overcome, in the sense that the auction is concluded, the initial payment has come in. So we certainly expect this process to now, close in the next couple of months or so.
370 crores is the overall exposure. 20 crores is what you've got. 350 is pending, right?
That is broadly, those are broadly the numbers. Yes, Mangalam.
All right, just a final question on the business front itself. You said power costs are increasing and there have been power outages, etc. Is this something that you are doing to reduce the power costs? Are you, looking to start something captively with regards to power, renewable? A lot of people are talking about that. And what kind of EBITDA are you targeting this year?
So Mangalam, I was actually talking about the power crisis in South Africa. Okay. Which is expected to bolster ferrochrome prices globally. But yes, in as much as our power cost is concerned, as you know, we are primarily thermal at the moment, about 150 megawatts of generation, out of which barely 5 megawatts is renewable. And coal prices had been elevated. They have now started coming down. I've read, of course, the news about Coal India hiking prices at its board meeting yesterday. So we'll have to see what those numbers are. But going ahead, in as much as our expansion plans are concerned, we are in advanced state of discussions for signing up for renewable power, because that would it's an essential step for us to start reducing our carbon footprint. And one of the low-hanging fruit in that regard is to look at renewable power for our expansion project. So hopefully in the next 2-3 months, we would have an announcement in that regard.
Okay, all right. So we'll speak to you, and there are some updates there. The street likes your commentary. The stock is at the day's high, up 3%. Mr. Panda, thank you so much for joining us. That's the word coming in from IMFA. We'll slip